behalf of the President of the Center for Public Service Productivity and Development, Professor Sandeep Gupta, Council members, and the Director General, Dr. Chris Ebu, I welcome all of you to this month's free webinar on productivity. The Center for Public Service Productivity and Development is the first world-class productivity center in Africa, incorporated by public-spirited professionals to complement the effort of government and international agencies such as International Labour Organization, United Nations Development Program, United Nations Conference for Trade and Development, Asia Productivity Organization, European Association of National Productivity Center, and Pan-African Productivity Association, PAPA. The objective of the organization is to promote the tenets of personal and organizational productivity through seminars such as this. Our topic for this month is boosting productivity with cybersecurity and awareness. Our speaker is Kenneth Okereafor, PhD. He is the Deputy General Manager, ICT Infrastructure Management Division, National Health Insurance Scheme, Abuja, Nigeria.
Kampala.
Dr. Kenneth Okereafor holds a PhD in cybersecurity and biometrics from Azteca University, Mexico, and is the author of the book Cybersecurity in the COVID-19 Pandemic, published recently in the UK. A former employee of the United States Department, he is a United Nations trained information security expert with over 25 years global experience in threat mitigation technologies, cutting across industry, government, and academia. A cybersecurity researcher at the UNESCO International Center for Theoretical Physics, Italy, Kenneth has many publications to his credit and is passionate about applying the cyber defense expertise to helping global organizations to protect their assets and data from the impact of post-COVID-19 attacks. Having led current managers, digital infrastructure and health insurance security at the National Health Insurance Scheme, Abuja, he is our authority in this field. In this cyber security for productivity lecture series, Kenneth will help us to see the importance of digital security, data protection, and cyberspace defense, as well as their relevance to employee productivity in the workplace. The series is guaranteed to significantly improve the cyber security capacity of participants to detect, prevent, respond to, and mitigate cyber attacks in various forms and several sources. Before we invite this astute personality to take over, please take note of the following ground norms. Questions are not entertained during the course of the lecture. That will be attended to at the end of the lecture. Please put your device in silent or mute mode to avoid background information filtration. It is now my singular honor to invite Kenneth Okereafor, PhD, to present his lecture. Dr. Kenneth, you have our audience.
Thank you very much, sir. And I am very pleased to present this lecture. Have you ever wondered what could happen if everybody within the organization has cybersecurity knowledge to be able to protect data and computing resources? What that would mean will be there will be less of cyber attacks, there will be less of data loss, and there will be increased productivity. And therefore today, I'm going to discuss the relevance of cybersecurity awareness for an organization. To do this, we are going to look at some outlines. We first of all establish the digital needs of organizations, and then we look at the effect of COVID-19 pandemic on productivity. And then we try to understand exactly what cybersecurity means, because a lot of people think that cybersecurity is only for IT people. So today I'm going to tell you why cybersecurity is a knowledge that everybody should have. Then we shall also look at the whole essence of cybersecurity awareness. What does it mean? What is the scope? What does it cover? And what are the advantages? Then we shall deal in details with a number of threats that organizations are faced with today. And then after that, we'll look at the consequences of these threats on organizational productivity. We make recommendations and then we conclude. So every organization manages data. It is people that use computing systems to manage these data and exchange them for communications and for information. So that means that whether it's in the public sector or in the private sector, every corporate entity has a series of data that it manages, and these data needs to be properly protected. And it is the use of digital systems that makes the management of this data very, very efficient. The efficiency that an organization enjoys is a product of the type of digital resources that it deploys, especially to automate its business processes. Human resource management is also a very important aspect of an organization, for which computing systems and digital assets help to manage. And of course, every organization has affiliates, associates, clients, and customers. And the relationship between the organization and these customers is a function of how technology supports to manage that interface. And even the day-to-day processing of documents within the organization is also managed by computing devices, software implementations, cloud computing, and other digital assets in terms of the management of documents in electronic form. And above all, the overall corporate governance of an organization relies on efficient technology to reach more people faster and more efficiently. Having said this, I need us also to understand that COVID as a pandemic has had a lot of impact on productivity and on the ability of people to utilize digital resources. There are a lot of protocols for which people are meant to comply. We all now understand the entire concept of work from home, which means digital transactions now have shifted to the cloud. Remote work is now a norm. It is now a way of life. Even as I'm speaking with you right now, I know there are people connected from all around the world, and this would not have been possible without technology. But what this means also is that as technology is now being embraced, it has also increased the propensity for cyber attacks. It has also empowered cyber criminals to have more latitude to attack resources, especially those of them that are not properly protected. And that's why today, I'm going to teach you how you can increase your awareness of cybersecurity in order to protect these digital resources. And by the way, the digital behavior worldwide has changed as a result of COVID. So that means that there is now an evolution of new types of cyber attacks for which people are meant to be aware of. This is the whole essence of cybersecurity awareness. And for us to do this, we need to first of all understand what cybersecurity is. There's a lot of misconception about the whole topic of cybersecurity. A lot of people think that cybersecurity is only meant for technology people. It's only meant for people who study computer science, or it's only meant for the IT folks. No. Anybody that carries a mobile phone needs to know about cybersecurity. Anybody that uses a software in the office needs to know about cybersecurity. Anyone that uses the internet, anyone that sends or receives email, does social media, needs to understand what cybersecurity means. And therefore, it is a requirement in an organization that so long as people are using digital resources to transact and to do processes within the organization, cybersecurity knowledge is very important. And therefore, what is cybersecurity? The various types of data which an organization manages, especially when these data are in digital form, they need to be properly protected. The data needs to be properly protected against attack. The data needs to be properly protected between the time it's exchanged and the time it gets to the destination, in order to preserve the integrity of such data, its availability, and of course, its confidentiality. Every organization has sets of critical data, some of them confidential, and it is the protection of this data in electronic form that cybersecurity tends to protect. Cybersecurity is also the prevention of computer abuse. Computer can be used positively. Unfortunately, it can also be used negatively. I usually like to give this analogy. A gun can be used to kill, and a gun can also be used to protect. A gun in the hands of a robber is different from a gun in the hands of a policeman. This one is using it to commit crime. The other one is using it to protect. That's the same way the computer is. Those software that you use in your offices, every technology that you use to manage your data, they are meant for good. However, they can also be abused. And therefore, cybersecurity is the prevention of all forms of abuse on computing systems and on the people that use them. Cybersecurity is also the identification of various forms of cyber attacks. There are different ways resources can be attacked in the digital form. Being able to identify these sources, their impacts and their effects is also an aspect of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is also the response to cyber crimes. Now, it is very important to prevent cyber crimes, but unfortunately, once in a while, depending on the security level, cyber crimes do occur. The ability to respond fast to cybercrime is also an element of cybersecurity. And then, compliance with digital policies and standards. There are standards and regulations and recommendations that guide how digital data is used and how resources are managed. The ability to comply with these regulations is also an element of cybersecurity. Now, whenever an attack, a cyber attack occurs, there are consequences. These consequences will depend on how quickly they are addressed, and therefore the way and manner in which the impacts of such cyber crimes are reduced is an element that is studied in cybersecurity. And finally, creating awareness on the sources of cyber attack, how they happen, their impacts, and what can be done by system users to prevent them, which is, by the way, called cyber awareness, is also an element of cybersecurity. So cybersecurity encompasses digital media, the people that use them, behaviors in the digital space, and how to protect digital data from unauthorized access, from malicious attack, and from unintentional alterations. Having said this, let's now try to understand exactly what is meant by cybersecurity awareness. I look at cybersecurity awareness as a combination of all the processes, the standards, the techniques, and all the strategies and behaviors that are used to enhance cybersecurity knowledge. When you put all the recommendations, all the frameworks, all the processes and techniques, when you put all of them together for the common goal of boosting cybersecurity knowledge and increasing cyber skills, then you are creating cybersecurity awareness. Cybersecurity awareness helps to understand the various sources of threats and the risks that they pose to an organization. Cybersecurity awareness also helps to prevent the impacts and the heavy consequences of cyber attacks on organizations. So having said this, it's now very important for us to understand some of the threats within organization for which cybersecurity awareness becomes very important. The first one is social engineering. Social engineering is the manipulation of human beings in order to siphon information from them that can be used to circumvent the system. Put in another way, social engineering means taking advantage of weaknesses in humans in order to circumvent a computer system. And so when someone calls you on phone and says, hey, I'm the MD of ABC company, and I am stuck here, I need access to the mail server, I want to access my email, could you please give me the password for the administrator? And you eventually think that this is the MD and you give out. That's an aspect of social engineering. Or when you receive certain emails that purport to come from people that you know, and then you respond based on familiarity, not knowing that you're responding to the wrong person. That's an aspect of cyber security, social engineering. Therefore, social engineering basically is circumventing the weaknesses of people. What are those weaknesses that people have that can be circumvented to get cybersecurity, take cybersecurity advantage? One of them is sympathy. The other one is fear. The other one is loyalty. During the COVID lockdown last year, a lot of people got emails saying, oh, country A is giving out funds for COVID. Please click on this website and then fill out your information. We need your username, we need a password, we need your bank details. And a lot of people fell for it. That's an aspect of social engineering. And therefore, the reason why I'm bringing out each of these threats is to let us know that there are various aspects that we need to boost our knowledge of cybersecurity, so long as we work in organizations or we manage organizations for which data is exchanged. The other one is ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malicious software, negatively intended software, which cyber criminals use to lock an infected computer and make it impossible for the real owner to log in, except if he pays a certain amount and then gets the key to unlock. It is a big problem. But the good thing is that it can be detected, it can be prevented, and knowledge sharing like what we are doing now also helps to create the awareness on how to identify ransomware and take care of ransomware. Computer virus. We are all very familiar with the idea of computer virus, which is a malicious software too that is written to cause problem for the system. Depending on the nature of the computer virus, it can destroy files, it can make files not seen, it can also drown the system and make it very slow, or it can begin to send out email to the creator of the virus and then steal information. Power hiccups. It is very amazing to know how power hiccups can affect our computer systems. The computer system you are using to connect now, be it a laptop or a mobile phone or a desktop, runs on power. If there is no power in terms of battery, that computer is dead. Or if the power is not clean enough to sustain this communication, you won't be hearing me right now. And therefore, the ability of the system to sustain power is also a function of how secure the data is. And therefore, power hiccups are also a major threat to organizations. Insider attacks, also called insider collusion. This is where people who are meant to be protecting the system now go out and circumvent the very system they are meant to secure. By that, I mean system administrators or those that manage digital resources now being at the forefront of committing cyber crimes. There are a whole lot of reasons why these things can happen. It can be out of grief. It can be someone that has been fired and feels aggrieved. It can be because of unresolved disputes within the organization, or it can even be as a result of economic enticement. And therefore, organizations need to understand what to do about insider attacks, how to motivate their staff, and especially how to create constant training and awareness, just like what we are doing now, in order to prevent or minimize such occurrence. Illegal data alteration. Data can only be said to maintain integrity when it does not change from point A to point B. Every organization has confidential and sensitive information it manages. What makes such information confidential and private is the ability of using computers to preserve their integrity. And therefore, when such data can now be modified illegally without permission, then you now say that such data have lost their security. And therefore, there's a whole lot of talk about illegal data alteration for which awareness solves such problems. Credential racketeering. This is where people steal credentials of other computer users and sell them to others for financial gain. Everybody that uses a Yahoo or Gmail account, of course, has a username and a password. Everybody that has access to a company's software has a username and a password. Even on your phone, certain phones have usernames, password, pins, or patterns. The ability to protect those credentials, those usernames and passwords, such that they don't get into the wrong hands, is an element of creating awareness in order to prevent such. Email phishing. I've talked about this earlier. This is where people receive email messages that purport to come from those they know, and then they respond as though those emails are legitimate. There are also ways to identify whether the email is from a legitimate person and then what to do around that. Man-in-the-middle attack. This occurs every day, even on the platform we are using right now, which is Zoom. I am in one part of town talking, and people are connected from various locations. An attacker can find somewhere in between and insert himself in this conversation, either just to listen or to disrupt. That is called man-in-the-middle attack. So man-in-the-middle attack is where the cyber attacker comes in between two people that believe that they are talking securely or that they are transacting information securely, and then steals information or manipulates information and sends it across. Depending on where this occurs, the consequences are huge. For example, in the financial industry, where depositors send out information, probably requesting for withdrawal, if man-in-the-middle attack occurs, the attacker can change the figure, push it across, and then change the destination. In that way, the withdrawals are now sent to the wrong account. Cyber espionage. This is the use of computer systems to spy on people. The use of digital media to spy on the activities of other people without their permission. This is usually used by certain government agencies, of course, when they want to get confidential information on a particular field. However, cyber criminals also use this in order to do proper reconnaissance before the attack. But there are also measures on how to identify cyber espionage and take action. Cyberbullying is another major threat. This is the use of digital systems to send out information, messages, or content that offend other people. It is the use of email or SMS or social media or any other type of digital resource to bully other people or to make other people miserable. For example, in 2020, in March, late March of 2020, at the heat of the global lockdown, there was this video that went viral showing security officials molesting people and asking them to go indoors. And then somebody captioned it, "The brutality of the Nigerian police force." But guess what? That video turned out to be an old event that happened years before in a different part of Africa. But now somebody has labeled it and made it appear as though it was coming from Nigeria. That's an aspect of cyberbullying, using digital media to send out false information to make an organization or an individual miserable or even to gain competitive advantage. Malware, we've talked about malware. Malware means malicious software, and there are different types. We've talked about virus, we've talked about ransomware. Now, adware means advertising software. Spyware means spying software. These are negatively intended software that criminals use to barge on your privacy. At times you come up and see on your system, something pops up, even without you asking for it. That's an adware. They are trying to sell an idea or market a product to you without your permission. Spyware also comes into the system and then begins to steal information and send it to the attacker. There are ways of identifying these. There are ways of preventing them. There are ways of limiting their impact. These are all elements of cybersecurity awareness. Password attack. Your password is used to protect your login or your access to a digital resource. The strength of your password and how you protect it is very important to make it effective. And that's why you are always required to change your password at intervals of 1 month or not more than 2 months. The reason is because no matter how strong your password is, there are software that can crack it. However, the smart thing that you can do is, if you make your password very strong, you are increasing the time it takes for the attacker to crack it. Some passwords can be cracked in a second, some can be cracked in a week, some can be cracked in months or years. So depending on how strong it is, you are enlarging the time it takes to crack. So the reason why you are asked to change your password is, as the cyber criminal is trying to circumvent it and to crack the password, you now change it. Therefore, his effort is in futility. Website hijack and cloning. An organization's website is its digital access to others. That's where it advertises its products and makes its intentions known. The content in a website is meant to portray the culture and the orientation of the organization. But when the website is poorly protected, it can be hijacked by cyber criminals who now go in and deposit any offensive content they like, or even make it inaccessible for legitimate users. Unauthorized information disclosure. Information can be classified as normal information or sensitive information or confidential information. Depending on the classification of information, that also determines the level of security that is put to protect it. And therefore, when information that has been categorized by an organization as confidential or sensitive goes out prematurely or to the wrong hands, that's a breach of confidentiality. It's an infringement on privacy. And this is an area where cybersecurity comes in to provide the needed awareness so that people understand the nature of data and how to protect them. Clickjacking. Clickjacking is like deceiving a user by showing him a fake URL or a fake link for which he clicks and it takes him to the wrong resource. This is also an aspect of social engineering. Then identity theft. Identity theft is more like credential racketeering, where cyber criminals are only interested in stealing the logins of people in order to use them to cause havoc. So, having said this, and having looked at the broad range of threats that an organization can face, it's important also for us to understand the impacts, the consequences of these cyber attacks. The first one is data loss. When an organization experiences a cyber attack, there is every tendency that that organization loses data. And data loss can cause service disruption depending on the services or products that the organization is interested in. These services can be disrupted as a result of cyber attack. No organization wants to pay out money unnecessarily. And that's why it's very important to secure digital assets and, more importantly, to create cybersecurity awareness, because when ransomware occurs and payments are made, it affects the organization's bottom line, and it's more like money that is spent unduly, which of course leads to serious revenue loss. Revenue is also lost as a result of the time wasted to fix the problem, the regulatory sanctions, and payments made in order to clean up the system and bring it back to normalcy. Above all, when a cyber attack occurs, an organization faces this media backlash. Imagine Bank ABC or Bank XYZ is involved, there's an incident in such a bank and it is traced to a cyber attack. What does that mean? It means that the reputation of that bank will drop. People will no longer feel safe depositing their funds in that bank. And of course, that bank will begin to lose clients. The same thing also happens in an organization, any other organization. When there is a cyber attack, the first thing that people think about is, oh, their security is poor. So what that means is that that organization is losing credibility on a daily basis. The other impact is privacy infringement. Depending on the type of data that has been circumvented through cyber attack, it could be an element of privacy concern, a breach of privacy. Take, for example, in the healthcare industry, where healthcare data relates to life. We are talking about medical data, we are talking about ailments, medical history, drugs that are prescribed for a particular patient. Assuming the medical information of a patient leaks out, it can lead to a lot of problems. It's a privacy breach, and such an individual can take legal actions because it can cause stigmatization, which might even lead to suicide attempts. So it is very important to know and understand that data has value, and because it has value, the way it is protected using cybersecurity is very important, and that's why we are creating this awareness. Another consequence of cyber attack is regulatory sanctions. There are various standards that guide various aspects of cybersecurity in an organization. Anytime a cyber attack occurs, it means that a certain regulation or standard has not been complied with. And this could impose some sanctions. Sanctions can be that you lose your license, or if it is a website, that website is blacklisted, the IP address, which is the identity of that computer that hosts the website, is blocked, and so on. At times, it could even be payments or fines that are made by that organization. And of course, the behavior of clients will change as soon as an organization is repeatedly identified with cyber attacks. What that means is that trust between the clients and such an organization will begin to drop, because customers will now begin to feel that they are not safe to continue to transact or to do business with such organization. And of course, cyber attacks can lead to very grievous litigations. Litigations in the sense that people are aggrieved that their data has been circumvented, or people are aggrieved that an organization can no longer perform its duties because its activities have been drowned as a result of cyber attacks, and the consequences can be very huge. And of course, unfortunately, fatalities. Depending on the industry involved, cybersecurity and cyber attacks, they are very serious matters. Take, for example, in aviation, where very sensitive and critical data are exchanged between airports, between flight control systems and pilots. Assuming such data is not available at the right time, or such data has been circumvented and changed and is giving the pilot the wrong information, your guess is as good as mine. And therefore, having said this, it's very important for us to realize that wherever we find ourselves, we are exchanging data. Irrespective of the organization, we are managing one type of data or the other for which that organization holds there. And therefore, how that data is managed and how the system that manages them is preserved is very, very important. Now, to conclude, we need to understand that every organization processes certain level of data, and these data could be very critical. The digital systems that process this data need to be properly secured, because insecure systems are a major threat. Not only the system being insecure, but the people that manage the systems, the workforce, also need to be properly trained on how to utilize the systems. This is because cyber attacks have huge consequences, which we have seen. They have huge consequences. They can lead to data loss. They can make an organization lose its clients and lose its competitive advantage. They can also lead to poor or unavailable services, and so on and so forth. For this reason, it's very important for every organization to take cybersecurity seriously. Gone are the days when we say cybersecurity is only for IT people. No, it is for everyone. Everyone that uses systems in an organization to manage data, to process, to deal with clients, and to communicate information. Such people need cybersecurity awareness. And this awareness comes in various forms: training, workshops, lectures like what we are doing right now, interaction with other organizations, collaborations, even research and development in order to innovate. So with this, I sincerely thank you for listening, but I have to end with the following recommendations. 1, cybersecurity awareness and education, they are very, very key for end users in all organizations. It is very important as well to develop cybersecurity policies. These are documents which an organization develops to guide how it uses its digital information. All the digital resources within an organization, how they are used, must be captured in a conscious document called the cybersecurity policy. This is a must. Without a policy, it is difficult to tell someone that he should not leave his computer unlocked when he steps out. Without a cybersecurity policy in an organization, it's difficult to enforce password recommendations. Without cybersecurity policy, it's difficult to tell people how to use their email. And therefore, there has to be a conscious document that specifies all the levels of digital security in an organization, how a website is done, how information is exchanged, how long you keep client data, and so on and so forth. These must be captured in a cybersecurity policy. Number 3, it is very important for management and leadership of organizations to be interested in cybersecurity. What happens before now is organizations don't pay attention to cybersecurity until a cyber attack occurs. And by that time, unfortunately, for some of them, it's very late. So their recommendation is make cybersecurity the integral part of your business, irrespective of what type of services or products you transact in, be it in the healthcare or in identity management or in aviation or banking and finance. It doesn't matter. So long as there are human beings that make use of computers for business processes, then management and leadership must make cybersecurity a priority. Number 4, it's important to adopt best practices in managing cybersecurity. There are technology standards out there that can be adapted and customized to suit your organizations. Number 5, irrespective of the security you deploy to protect your digital resources, once in a while there could be attempts or there could be successful attacks. What you do in such times is very important, and therefore incident response, how you respond to cyber attacks, what you do and how you manage those is also a requirement. And finally, the only way an organization can remain competitive and productive is to continue to innovate. And that's the whole essence of having this type of conversation, create the awareness on cybersecurity and how important it is to boost productivity. I must thank you so much for your attention, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Kenneth Okereafor, PhD. I think that name, that appellation now gives its real meaning. This is an eye-opening lecture. You have explained, even to the understanding of a layman, that in view of the digital needs of modern organizations and individuals, we need to be aware of cyber threats. And you explained 18 of them, which includes computer virus, power hiccups, illegal data alteration, credential racketeering, email phishing, cyber espionage, cyber bullying, website hijack and cloning, identity theft, and many more that we cannot mention now. Along with all of this, you have given us some guidelines on how to mitigate these threats. We are very happy for giving us all of this on a platter of gold. We would now like to entertain questions from the audience. You will use the raise hand feature, and Dr. Okereafor is handy to answer your questions.
All right, thank you, sir. I see a hand up. Francis Chi Adi, you can go ahead with your question, sir.
Yes, I'm here. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please, go ahead. I can hear you.
Yes, my question is, in the new technology that is up, especially in the financial world, we hear about Bitcoin, and in Nigeria, the e-naira, and the issue of national identity being enforced. It poses a lot of the person's detail in the internet as these transactions are going on, even though there is promise of anonymity. So how can one really be sure that the level of exposure of personal identity is properly handled by some of these agencies?
Okay, thank you for your question. I think we can take a little more so we now answer them together. I see a hand of Dr. Joshua Odewale. Go ahead with your question, sir. Dr. Joshua, go ahead with your question, sir.
Like what you rightly mentioned, that there are situations wherein the real owner will not have access to his account. It happened to an organization using WhatsApp, and he tried to access, because they were using his name, the name of his organization, to collect money from people. And when he closed it, send message to WhatsApp, change everything, yet that information was still going under using his name. What can be done to correct those issues? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Edward, I see your hand up. Please go ahead with your question.
Okay, good morning, everyone. A very nice lecture. My question to Dr. Okereafor is most of the software and application that organizations use these days are usually third party, where someone does not have control over the source of their website and other things. I just want to ask, sir, what document or what measures can one take to protect his own organizations despite using a third-party application, sir? Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, so I don't see it. Okay, so Francis, you have a question. Francis Mora, go ahead with your question.
Good morning, Dr. Kenneth.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you so much for your lecture. Very insightful. Good morning, everyone. My question is, can Nigerians will reach the level where one can actually sue and litigate where there is a contract or a cyber breach or information breach, unnecessary or unauthorized information sharing? Because I know in the Western world, they do have things that go that way. Because we have some, like what the last speaker said, we have a lot of third-party organizations and people handling sensitive information or websites whereby they have their policies, and on some of these their policies, there are all kinds of waivers and hidden how will I put it, fine print in them. So I want to know what's the level of can one litigate? Thank you.
Okay. So we've had 4 questions so far. Let me attempt to address each of them. And by the way, this is an interactive session, so let's talk. The first question from Chiade is about Bitcoin, anonymity, and exposure. Now, technology is evolving. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, these are also part of the evolution in technology. But what that also means is that such evolution also come with exposure to cyber threats. And therefore, it is a collective responsibility to protect the cyberspace. The user of Bitcoin and those that manage the resources on which cryptocurrency technologies run have a responsibility. The government also has responsibility. So it is a shared responsibility for people to understand what they can do and how they can protect self and then protect their resources. Like I said earlier, there is no system that is totally foolproof. However, what we do in security is try to mitigate. There is a concept called defense in depth. Defense in depth means applying different types of protection at the same time, such that if A fails, B takes over, or if C doesn't work well, D is there to back up. That's how cybersecurity works. When the users of Bitcoin play their own part and take some of these simple measures that we have discussed in this lecture, and then those that manage the back end also perform their own roles, and then government policies are there also to guide. Together, these things will make the cyberspace more secure. The second question from Dr. Joshua, he tried to narrate an incident on WhatsApp and how access was stolen and all that. So the advice is this: every piece of technology will keep changing, will keep upgrading. Even WhatsApp as an application keeps upgrading. Ensure that your WhatsApp application or your system is the latest version. Once in a while, WhatsApp pushes out updates and invites users to update. So it's just as simple as clicking to update. Once you update, it means that certain security vulnerabilities that have been identified by the writers and the developers of the software have been taken care of and you are protected. Secondly, there are also things you can do to limit who has access to your WhatsApp. All these things are in the application itself. If it is a group, there are also things the group admin can do to limit infiltration by unauthorized people. We can discuss some of this offline and then we'll give out certain tips. The third question is from Edward. And Edward is concerned about having some control over third-party applications and what organizations can do to protect themselves. And then I say this again, defense in depth. There has to be a conscious SLA. SLA is service level agreement. The organization has to sign a robust service level agreement that states how the software works, who is responsible for what, who should manage what are the scope of responsibilities of the developer or the producer, and then what are the bounds of the user. It is only when you have a good service level agreement that you can then hold someone accountable. And that takes me back to my earlier mention during the talk concerning having a cybersecurity policy. A cybersecurity policy makes it possible for you to define how you develop your service level agreements with service providers that bring these third-party software and solutions to you. And that's very important. And finally, Francis wants to know if something can be done legally when an organization or when certain breaches occur. So I need to let you know that Nigeria already has a cybersecurity law. It is called the Cybercrime Prevention and Prohibition Act of 2015. That act was one of the last ones that were signed in by the former President Goodluck Jonathan before he handed over in 2015. That act is in force today. And therefore, the whole essence of the Cybersecurity Act is to protect our digital resources. What can you do when you think that your information has been breached by a bank or an organization or an individual? Even things like our popular Yahoo boys, things like that are also mentioned in the law. Things concerning social media misuse are also there. So we already have the law. It is there and it can be brought up at any time. I hope I've been able to attempt the questions. I see another hand up. I don't know whether we should take Adebayo. and have his question. Adeba, you have the floor, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Firstly, we do appreciate the knowledge that you pledged to us. God will continue to increase your knowledge, sir. Sir, I'm thinking that maybe this awareness on cyber security awareness, maybe if we can start from the lower level, from secondary school entirely, in part like security education. Can you hear me, sir? Security education.
Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
That can be from there. That can reduce crime detection because some of the secondary school people, some of them they have even know more. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Some of them they even know more than we do. But if we can impart that skill entirely, creating the awareness that these are the side effect of that thing, if they really involved in such what crime entirely, at least Nigeria can really was change from my own perspective view, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, Sheye Obiseso, please go ahead with your question. Hello, Sheye. Hello, Sheye. Can you unmute yourself and go ahead with your question? Yes.
Okay.
Sheye, unmute yourself, please. We can't hear you. We know you are talking, but we can't hear you. Okay, we can't. Sheye,
yes,
go ahead now. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning once again, and thank you for this robust lecture. My question borders on two areas. First of all, and it's slightly internal. What can you recommend for organizations to actually drive this cybersecurity policy from top down? Because oftentimes the people at the bottom layer of the organization and the middle management actually would like to drive this, but oftentimes the top management, the boards may not actually approve these policies on time or even allocate budgets. Actually drive this, and these are very increasingly important issues that no matter the effort put on it and the technology available, we may still not achieve success. Now,
yeah, so what's your second question?
The second one has to do with internal collaborators in organizations across board. What are the recommendations to actually nip this in the bud or at best minimize it? Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. So Wilson Dadet, please go ahead with your question.
Okay, good morning. Confirm you can hear me?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you for the very insightful presentation. My question is short, and the question is, are there softwares that can be used to mitigate against the consequences of cyber effects on one system? Thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat your question, Wilson?
No, what I'm saying is, are there softwares that one can install on the system to mitigate against the consequences of cybercrime?
Okay, thank you. Issa Musa Gusau, please, your question. Hello, Issa, go ahead. Hello, Issa, your hand is up. Are you there? Okay, so if Issa is not ready, please, Kenneth Ozo, go ahead with your question or comment. Okay.
Thank you very much. Your lecture is very highly appreciated. I need to really just draw from an experience. And that experience is about a purchase I made on an online store. And of course, I found a defect. I got back to them using an address there, not knowing it was a kind of, do I call it phishing? Someone else used exactly their address and said that their customer care staying somewhere in Lekki. And I clicked and the guy said, okay, since this money, we are going to refund the goods and the rest of it. I understand fully well that banks, for instance, they can use similar names, so that any name bearing the same bank's name you put will eventually take you to the original website. But it wasn't the case with this very popular online shopping platform. So I lost some money. I made reports. I tried to get across to them. The customer service wasn't even. They were not.
I need seats.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Kenneth. Issa Musa Gusau, you are on now. Can you ask your question?
Good afternoon. Good morning, rather, Doctor. I thank for the insightful lecture. Please, my question goes this way. And now that we are having some outlets giving the authority to register NIN and the national ID card of a thing, some people's data are now exposed into the third party or a private sector, private registrars. Is there any way that one can at least reduce the risk? Because these people, given this, and looking at the nature of the country and the society we have, I can easily sold out people's data into the wrong hand, or they can equally themselves be that criminal. What other way can we do to be that self-secured in terms of this situation if one happens to fall victim? Thank you.
Thank you. So let me attempt to address this batch of questions. The first one is from Adebayo. Adebayo was talking about the need or making a suggestion that cybersecurity awareness should also translate to the secondary schools or primary schools, especially at that level. Yes, I agree with you that even in our educational curriculum at the primary level and the secondary level, cybersecurity should be included. And of course, in some organizations, in some academic institutions at that level, there are basic sciences, there are computer appreciation, and an element of such curriculum involves cybersecurity. However, I understand what you are saying is that this should be made a conscious policy within governments, both at the national and state levels, to increase that awareness at that level. I agree with you. Sheye is made two comments. The first one is about driving cybersecurity from the top, and the second one is about how to handle internal collaborators in cybercrime. So the first thing I will want to say about getting the buy-in of management is this. Remember that management and leadership, they are very busy. Management may not have the time to sit down for 1 hour and listen to cybersecurity awareness talk. But when a cyber attack occurs, it is the MD's or the CEO's job that is on the line first before any other person. So this is the smart thing to do. Most times, technology people are too technical and they are speaking languages that the managers and leadership do not understand. So my first recommendation will be tone down your communication when you are speaking to management concerning technology, concerning digital assets, and concerning cybersecurity. Use terms and words that they will relate with, and ensure that when you are communicating, make references to what could be the consequences of not taking cybersecurity action. Because when the management is not aware of what they will lose by being subjected to cybercrime, they may not act. And therefore, it is the responsibility of the system administrator or those who are communicating with management to paint the right picture in order to get buy-in. Number two, oftentimes management looks at technology and technology department as a cost center. And the reason is because Technology is not like buying diesel. Technology is not like going into an auto shop and buying a car for the office. No. You can spend 3 million naira, 5 million naira. You can spend 20 million naira to buy software, and all you get is just a series of codes. And that's all. That's the license. So it is the responsibility of those who manage technology to be able to use concrete evidences to convince management that the investment they are making in technology is real. Another thing you can also do is to organize brief technology talk for management. It can be as short as 10 minutes. It can be a 15-minute talk on why they have to protect their email. If you are able to do this, gradually you will now begin to inculcate into the leadership mind that technology is important and cybersecurity is important. Finally, it is very important to let management sign off on the cybersecurity policy. Once it is a document signed off by management, it becomes a binding document on the entire organization, including the top. I hope I've been able to address that. The second part of your question is about internal collaborators, which I refer to as insider attacks. That is where people inside the organization now come up and attack the system, or they are the ones that give out information to cyber criminals. What can be done? A lot can be done. Number one, organizations need to be very careful who they employ. Therefore, HR departments need to do proper background check during recruitment. Number two, even when people have come in, cybersecurity awareness training is a must. In some organizations, it's done once per year. But my recommendation is at least twice a year, do cybersecurity awareness and make it an element of appraisal. Whoever does not pass the cybersecurity awareness course within the organization should not get promoted. By so doing, you are forcing people to go through the process every 6 months in order to get used to them. Number three, why is it that people internally aid and give out information to those outside to attack the system? The reason is simple. It's either that they are aggrieved or they are not properly motivated. Let's assume they are not properly motivated. Organizations need to find out how to balance between work and pleasure. Organizations need to have a reward system. Those who perform creditably well should be rewarded. Those who have done wrong should be punished. When these things are balanced, everyone will now know that the organization is responsible enough to identify their hard work and to take care of them. Now, there are a number of times people say that, oh, if you don't pay your staff very well, they will steal your information. It may not be all about pay. By the way, there's nothing about pay rises, but it's not all about pay. It's about the motivation you give out, the policies that you have to recognize those who have done well. That will encourage others. Finally, 71%, according to a recent study, 71% of all the attacks that are related to insider information has to do with unsettled grievances. HR departments should ensure that before someone is terminated, that all the processes have been exhausted to lay that person off, including giving him a fair hearing and giving him opportunity to appeal. It's only when people are fired unduly or they feel they have not been given opportunity to express themselves that they go out there. Maybe they still have access to the system, they still have credentials, they still have logins, and then they begin to think very bad things. And of course, part of the reason why I'm emphasizing on security policy is that the security policy should also specify how long a staff or an employee should hold on to information. Once a staff leaves an organization, all his accesses should be withdrawn. If these things are specified in the policy, then it will be difficult for him out there to log in again, steal information, or to try and cause havoc. So the question from Wilson is, whether there is any software that can mitigate cyber attacks. Of course, there are solutions. Of course, there are software. There are so many things that can be done, but the best thing that can be done to protect an organization in terms of cybersecurity is to deploy what is called UTM, Unified Threat Management. A unified threat management system is any number of applications that work together to secure your organization. Now, this is a bit technical, but there are solutions out there, and I'm not going to mention names of vendors, but there are solutions that can detect attacks. There are some that can prevent. There are some that can give you warning that there are certain transactions on your network that are suspicious. Therefore, please take action. Some of them can send you an email, some can send messages, and so on. There are also some that will block out what is perceived to be an attack pattern. So Kenneth is talking about making purchase online and fraudulent transaction. Yeah, about the fraudulent transaction you talked about, I need to let you know that for every cyber attack, there must be a vulnerability that has been taken advantage of. Let me explain. A vulnerability is a weakness in a system. It can be a weakness in a person. There must be a vulnerability before a cyber attacker attacks. That cyber attacker is the threat. The vulnerability is what he now uses to come in. For someone whose credit card has been used to commit fraud, somehow that person has unknowingly compromised. It could be as simple as responding to a fake email and the person doesn't know, and his information is circumvented. Asa Musa was asking a question concerning the idea of NIN and exposure of people's information to third parties. I need to make it clear to you that the NIN, that's the National Identification Number you talked about, which, by the way, is the responsibility of the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC. The NIN is a secure entity. The organization or the agency managing the NIN, which is NIMC, is a government entity that has been licensed to do so. So the good news is that there is a global standard that is expected of NIMC and all other agencies that manage such classes of data. And I'm happy to announce to you that NIMC has passed that certification. In fact, NIMC has even recertified. What that means is that globally, the National Identity Management Commission is able, is well equipped with the necessary facilities, the technology, the skill set, and the workforce to manage data securely. That is on the part of NIMC. However, on your own part, as the person giving out the information, you have a right to question if you feel that your data has been compromised. And this is also supported by the Cybercrime Act of 2015, which I talked about earlier. Okay, so are there any further comments or questions?
Yes, I wish to recognize the presence of the President, Professor Sandep Gupta, and the Vice President. Please, we would like them to appreciate you and make their observation. First, Professor Sandep, please, you have our ears. Hello, Prof.
To Dr. Kenneth for giving the wonderful lecture to my center. Because, you know, sometimes due to lack of information, we are unable to work in a best way. And you have given how we can prevent our organization and how we can enhance the productivity by the knowledge. These two aspects is there. You have focused on both aspects. It's a wonderful thing you have given. One, what we have and how we can prevent, that is important. And I hope so that all my members will get the opportunity how they can increase the productivity for their organization, which can play the important role for nation building and the organization. Thank you for my team and the Professor Kelechi who has invited you as a guest. Sorry, I am too much far from your country, but I want to really meet physically and say thank you to you for my organization. On the behalf of my organization, Dr. Chris and Professor Kelechi is there. They can manage your facilitation for the wonderful lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. I appreciate you.
Please, the Vice President, Dr. Engineer Benga, can you make your comments?
Thank you very much, the chairman of this wonderful presentation in person of Mr. Kelechi Okereafor, FCP. You have done wonderfully well. We quite appreciate you. Let me also use this opportunity to thank Dr. Kenneth Okereafor for this knowledge sharing and wonderful presentation. We really appreciate you. You have done excellently well. Even the manner and your approach of answering those questions, no doubt, portrayed you as a veteran. We really appreciate your efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, sir.
So we thank you very much, Dr. Kenneth. We look forward to more lectures from you when we approach again. I hope you will oblige us.
Yes, sir.
Then we invite all our guests to visit our website, www.centerforproductivity.org, or email us at info@centerforproductivity.org. Members will receive this lecture, both slides and videos, while non-members will receive the slides. Any participant who wishes to receive a certificate of attendance should pay administrative fee of 5,000 only to the Secretariat and drop his email for onward transmission of the certificate of attendance. We thank you all. We'll now want to the Director General, Dr. Chris, to make his final remarks.
Well, I appreciate you, Dr. Kenneth, for sparing your time to prepare this lecture. And some people may be wondering the connection between cybersecurity and productivity. Yes, if one security system is attacked, definitely the person will lose reputation. The person will also lose money. And the person will also lose value because the organization will be feeling that that organization is not well secure to do business with. And at times, they can lose money that is very significant. We know when Facebook and WhatsApp went down for about 4 or 5 hours, some few weeks ago, the value of Facebook dropped by about $7 billion. So that is how far cybersecurity attack or issues can impact on your on productivity. You can also imagine if a bank server is attacked and is down and you cannot do transaction for 1 day. You cannot transfer money, you cannot receive money from your bank for 1 day. I will assure you that that bank will also
lose 20%, if not more, of their value in the stock exchange. So that is how it connects productivity. Therefore, we should take our cybersecurity from our WhatsApp account, email account, Facebook account, and anything we have to do with the internet, we have to take it serious so that at the end of the day, we will be more productive, and the intruders, or what we call Yahoo boys, will not take our hard-earned money. So we appreciate all the fellows who attended, and our members too. We appreciate them, and we appreciate all who have joined and will continue to relate with us to increase our productivity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Please, we will invite you again to our next month's productivity lecture, and I hope you will take advantage of that. Thank you, Dr. Kenneth.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm glad that it's appreciated. And my interest is to ensure that knowledge is imparted and people are aware of what they can do. But just quickly, I noticed that there are a lot of few other questions and certain comments on the chat room. So I want to suggest that for those who are requesting for the soft copy of this presentation, my email is displayed there. That is nitelken@yahoo.com. That is nitelken@yahoo.com. If you send me an email, I can forward the presentation to you with the permission of the organizers. And if there are further questions, we can also take them offline. Once again, I thank you for the opportunity.
A lot. So,
well done, Chris.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And
thank you very much.
bye for now.